The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, Chapter 8. I didn't speak to Hassan until the middle of the next week. I had just half eaten my lunch and Hassan was doing the dishes. I was walking upstairs going to my room when Hassan asked if I wanted to hike up the hill. I said I was tired. Hassan looked tired too. He had lost weight and grey circles had formed under his puffed up eyes. But when he asked again, I reluctantly agreed. We trekked up the hill, our boots squishing in the muddy snow. Neither one of us said anything. We sat under our pomegranate tree and I knew I had made a mistake. I shouldn't have come up the hill. The words I had carved on the tree trunk with Ali's kitchen knife, Amir and Hassan, the sultans of Kabul, I couldn't stand looking at them now. He asked me to read to him from the Shahnama and I told him I had changed my mind. Told him I just wanted to go back to my room. He looked away and shrugged. We walked back down the way we had gone up in silence, and for the first time in my life I couldn't wait for spring. My memory of the rest of that winter of 1975 is pretty hazy. I remember I was fairly happy when Baba was home. We'd eat together, go to see a film, visit Kaka Humayun or Kaka Farooq. Sometimes Rahim Khan came over and Baba let me sit in his study and sip tea with them. He'd even have me read him some of my stories. It was good, and I even believed it would last. And Baba believed it too, I think. We both should have known better. For at least a few months after the kite tournament, Baba and I immersed ourselves in a sweet illusion, saw each other in a way that we never had before. We had actually deceived ourselves into thinking that a toy made of tissue paper, glue and bamboo could somehow close the chasm between us. But when Baba was out, and he was out a lot, I closed myself in my room. I read a book every couple of days, wrote stories, learned to draw horses. I'd hear Hassan shuffling around the kitchen in the morning, heard the clinking of silverware, the whistle of the teapot. I'd wait to hear the door shut, and only then I would walk down to eat. On my calendar, I circled the date of the first day of school and began a countdown. To my dismay, Hassan kept trying to rekindle things between us. I remember the last time I was in my room reading an abbreviated Farsi translation of Ivanhoe when he knocked on my door. "What is it?" "I'm going to the baker to buy naan," he said from the other side. "I was wondering if you wanted to come along." "I think I'm just going to read," I said, rubbing my temples. Lately, every time Hassan was around, I was getting a headache. "It's a sunny day," he said. "I can see that. Might be fun to go for a walk." "You go." "I wish you'd come along," he said. Paused. Something thumped against the door, maybe his forehead. "I don't know what I have done, Amir Agha. I wish you'd tell me. I don't know why we don't play anymore." "You haven't done anything, Hassan. Just go." "You can tell me. I'll stop doing it." I buried my head in my lap, squeezed my temples with my knees like a vise. "I'll tell you what I want you to stop doing," I said, eyes pressed shut. "Anything. I want you to stop harassing me. I want you to go away." I snapped. I wished he would give it right back to me, break the door open and tell me off. It would have made things easier, better. But he didn't do anything like that. And when I opened the door minutes later, he wasn't there. I fell on my bed, buried my head under the pillow, and cried. Hassan milled about the periphery of my life after that. I made sure our paths crossed as little as possible, planned my day that way, because when he was around, the oxygen seeped out of the room. My chest tightened and I couldn't draw enough air. I'd stand there gasping in my own little airless bubble of atmosphere. But even when he wasn't around, he was. He was there in the hand-washed and ironed clothes on the cane seat chair, in the warm slippers left outside my door, in the wood already burning in the stove when I came down for breakfast. Everywhere I turned, I saw signs of his loyalty, his goddamn unwavering loyalty. Early that spring, a few days before the new school year started, Baba and I were planting tulips in the garden. Most of the snow had melted and the hills in the north were already dotted with patches of green grass. It was a cool grey morning and Baba was squatting next to me, digging the soil and planting the bulbs I handed to him. He was telling me how most people thought it was better to plant tulips in the fall and how that wasn't true. When I came right out and said it, "Baba, have you ever thought about getting new servants?" He dropped the tulip bulb and buried the trowel in the dirt, took off his gardening gloves. I'd startled him. "Gee, what did you say?" "I was just wondering, that's all." "Why would I ever want to do that?" Baba said curtly. You wouldn't, I guess. It was just a question," I said, my voice fading to a murmur. I was already sorry I'd said it. "Is this about you and Hassan? I know there's something going on between you two, but whatever it is, you have to deal with it, not me. I'm staying out of it." "I'm sorry, Baba." He put on his gloves again. "I grew up with Ali," he said through clenched teeth. "My father took him in. He loved Ali like his own son. 40 years Ali's been with my family. 40 goddamn years. And you think I'm just going to throw him out?" He turned to me now, his face as red as a tulip. "I've never laid a hand on you, Amir, but you ever say that again." He looked away, shaking his head. "You bring me shame. And Hassan's not going anywhere. Do you understand?" I looked down and picked up a fistful of cool soil, let it pour between my fingers. "I said, do you understand?" Baba roared. I flinched. "Yes, Baba." "Hassan's not going anywhere," Baba snapped. He dug a new hole with the trowel, striking the dirt harder than he had to. "He's staying right here with us, where he belongs. This is his home and we are his family. Don't you ever ask me that question again." "I won't, Baba. I'm sorry." We planted the rest of the tulips in silence. I was relieved when school started that next week. Students with new notebooks and sharpened pencils in hand ambled about the courtyard, kicking up dust, chatting in groups, waiting for the class captain's whistles. Baba drove down the dirt lane that led to the entrance. The school was an old 2-story building with broken windows and dim cobblestone hallways, patches of its original dull yellow paint still showing between sloughing chunks of plaster. Most of the boys walked to school, and Baba's black Mustang drew more than one envious look. I should have been beaming with pride when he dropped me off, the old me would have. But all I could muster was a mild form of embarrassment. That and emptiness. Baba drove away without saying goodbye. I bypassed the customary comparing of kite-fighting scars and stood in line. The bell rang and we marched to our assigned class, filed in pairs. I sat in the back row. As the Farsi teacher handed out our textbooks, I prayed for a heavy load of homework. School gave me an excuse to stay in my room for long hours, and for a while it took my mind off what had happened that winter, what I had let happen. For a few weeks I preoccupied myself with gravity and momentum, atoms and cells, the Anglo-Afghan wars, instead of thinking about Hassan and what had happened to him. But always my mind returned to the alley, to Hassan's brown corduroy pants lying on the bricks, to the droplets of blood staining the snow dark red, almost black. One sluggish, hazy afternoon early that summer, I asked Hassan to go up the hill with me. Told him I wanted to read him a new story I'd written. He was hanging clothes to dry in the yard, and I saw his eagerness in the hurried way he finished his job. We climbed the hill, making small talk. He asked about school, what I was learning, and I talked about my teachers, especially the mean math teacher who punished talkative students by sticking a metal rod between their fingers and then squeezing them together. Hassan winced at that, said he hoped I'd never have to experience it. I said I'd been lucky so far, knowing that luck had nothing to do with it. I had done my share of talking in class too, but my father was rich and everyone knew him, so I was spared the metal rod treatment. We sat against the low cemetery wall under the shade thrown by the pomegranate tree. In another month or two, crops of scorched yellow weeds would blanket the hillside, but that year the spring showers had lasted longer than usual, nudging their way into early summer, and the grass was still green, peppered with tangles of wildflowers. Below us, Wazir Akbar Khan's white-walled, flat-topped houses gleamed in the sunshine, the laundry hanging on clotheslines in their yard steered by the breeze to dance like butterflies. We had picked a dozen pomegranates from the tree. I unfolded the story I had brought along, turned to the first page, then put it down. I stood up and picked up an overripe pomegranate that had fallen to the ground. "What would you do if I hit you with this?" I said, tossing the fruit up and down. Hassan's smile wilted. He looked older than I had remembered. No, not older, old. Was that possible? Lines had etched into his tanned face and creases framed his eyes. His mouth, I might as well have taken a knife and carved those lines myself. "What would you do?" I repeated. The color fell from his face. Next to him, the stapled pages of the story I had promised to read him fluttered in the breeze. I hurled the pomegranate at him. It struck him in the chest, exploded in a spray of red pulp. Hassan's cry was pregnant with surprise and pain. "Hit me back," I snapped. Hassan looked from the stain on his chest to me. "Get up, hit me," I said. Hassan did get up, but he just stood there looking dazed like a man dragged into the ocean by a reap tide when, just a moment ago, he was enjoying a nice stroll on the beach. I hit him with another pomegranate in the shoulder this time. The juice splattered his face. "Hit me back," I spat. "Hit me back, God damn you!" I wished he would. I wished he'd give me the punishment I craved, so maybe I'd finally sleep at night. Maybe then things could return to how they used to be between us. But Hassan did nothing as I pelted him again and again. "You're a coward," I said. "Nothing but a goddamn coward." I don't know how many times I hit him. All I know is that when I finally stopped, exhausted and panting, Hassan was smeared in red like he had been shot by a firing squad. I fell to my knees, tired, spent, frustrated. Then Hassan did pick up a pomegranate. He walked toward me. He opened it and crushed it against his own forehead. "There," he croaked, red dripping down his face like blood. "Are you satisfied? Do you feel better?" He turned around and started down the hill. I let the tears break free, rocked back and forth on my knees. "What am I going to do with you, Hassan? What am I going to do with you?" But by the time the tears dried up and I trudged down the hill, I knew the answer to that question.